All right. Hello, everyone. And here I'm back. And let's proceed to the next part of this video. And yeah, as what I've said, we are going to read and learn about the story of the Golden Swan. So, as what you can see the picture, this is the Golden Swan. Yeah. And maybe this is the picture of the uh, wife. Okay. And I would also like you to watch the story on YouTube. I will copy the link and then you can watch the YouTube, watch the video on YouTube, and then let's also read and we will compare how are they the same or how are they different. Okay, so please get ready and take out your book, open it on page 42 to 40 no, not 42, 45 to 47. Again, take out your book and open it on page 45. Now let's read together. Okay. The Golden Swan. There was once a mighty hunter who lived in Laos. He was a good husband and a kind father, not father, and he looked after his family well. In fact, he was such a good hunter that people called him Chief Hunter. People knew he was a very lucky man. Everything about the chief hunter's wife was fortunate. His children always had food. His wife could trade birds and animals he caught for the best rice in the village. They had the best cloth to make their clothing. Life was rich and happy for the chief hunter's family. Then one day, the chief hunter hurt himself while he was hunting. He came to his wife and she said, "What is wrong? Your face is pale and you are moving so slowly. What happened?" Chief Hunter, "I don't know," the chief hunter said wearily. "I feel very sick. Let me lie down." So he took to his bed and his family nursed him devotedly and watched him with great care. At first, the hunter seemed to get better, but then he slipped back. He died a week later. His widow grieved terribly. She missed her husband and she did not know how to live without him. The family became poor and it was difficult to find enough food to eat. The children often cried when they went to sleep because they were hungry. The widow was at her wits' end. She could not sleep for worry and grief. One night, as the poor widow tossed and turned in her sleep, she heard her husband's voice. I have come back to help you, the voice said. I know how hard it is for you, the swan said in the chief hunter's voice. The widow was happy to hear her husband's voice, yet sad because she knew it was dream. The widow was happy to hear her husband's voice. Oh, no, sorry. So she could not speak. Wait a moment. Okay. Her throat closed, so she could not speak. The swan stood in the moonlight and said, I wish I could be here with you. Then it came closer. She could see that many of its feathers were made of gold. In the moonlight, it seemed to be a golden swan. The golden swan said, put your hand out and take one of my golden feathers. Use the money for food and clothing for yourself and the children. Go on. I will return whenever you need more. Pull a feather out of my wing. So, very gently, the widow pulled a feather out of the golden swan's wing. The golden swan said in the voice of the hunter or chief hunter, go to sleep now. In the morning, you will know that this was a special dream. So the widow put the feather beside her bed and went back to sleep. She slept as well, and so deeply it was as if her man were still alive. Then she woke. She remembered the dream and looked for the golden feather. There, in its place, was money and gold. The wife swept with gratitude. Her husband was kind and generous, even after death. Let she cry quiet. Let she went to the village and bought food and clothing. She was careful not to spend too much. She was cry quiet about her good fortune and decided to try to make the money last a long time. She looked after the money well, but after a while, there was very little life left, and she began to worry. Would the golden swan come back again? On the day she spent the last coin, she felt alone again, just like when she was first a widow. The golden swan came back to her, and she took a large feather than before. The golden swan flew away, and the widow dreamed on and planned what she could not with the money. I would like to gamble, she said. Well, anyone play with me? Will anyone play with me? Do you have any money? The gamblers asked. I have money, the widow said, and she let the gamblers see part of the gold. The game started that morning, and by nightfall, the widow had no money left. She went home, angry and depressed. On the way, she thought of a plan. My husband will be angry when he finds out how I lost the money. She thought if I had a lot of money, I would not need to ask him for more. That night, as she lay down, she waited for the golden swan to come. He came as usual and offered his feathers. This time she plucked all the golden feathers she could find. She did not care how much she hurt the swan. She was possessed by greed. The widow put the feathers into a pile by her bed so that she could see them as soon as possible. She woke up. Such a large pile of feathers should turn a lot of money, she thought. The next morning, she woke up and looked for the money. All she found was a pile of dull, dead swan's feathers. That night, the widow was afraid to go sleep, but at last she did. The golden swan came to her in her dream, said, I will never come to help you again. You do not deserve anything from me. And from now on, you must look after yourself. Then the swan flew away and never returned. So, this is the story about the golden swan. So, have you learned something from this story? Well, your task is first three questions about the characters, main characters, minor characters, and background characters, and also to describe the characters here. And the last task is the about setting. Okay, so this is all about for this week about the law literature, and see you again next week. Bye bye. Thanks